Okay, are we ready?
Look down.
You guys are good on the YouTube? Yep. Okay, we'll call the regular city council meeting of May 4th to order at 7:07 by the clock here. Can we stand and join me with the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, roll call, please.
Mayor Allison,
Here.
Tom Baylor,
Here.
Kathy Sherman,
Here.
Jeff Guard,
Here.
Melina Meyer,
Here.
Ann Schaefer,
Here.
Kristen Carpenter,
Here.
and Ken Jones.
Here.
That is all of council.
You looking for approval of the regular agenda?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion, changes? Hearing none with no objection, we will have an approved agenda. Disclosures of conflicts of interest and ex parte communications. Anybody? Okay, moving on then to communications by and petitions from visitors. We have a couple guest speakers to start out tonight. The Sheridan Alpine Association. I think, come on up and give us your show. You got a PowerPoint, right? I do, yeah. I'm gonna scoot over to the side then.
Mr. Mayor, Council, good to see everybody. I was trying to remember the last time I was in this room, several years ago. Glad to see everybody's faces. So I'm Dave Reggiani. If we're still doing addresses, it's 1021 Young Drive. I'm here with Dave Branshaw. Everybody knows Dave. And we wanted to come meet with the City Council and provide a 2021 season summary and a chairlift cable replacement update for that project. I think we've, as an association, I think we've fallen away from doing season summaries. That'd be the first thing I'd want to say. I think we ought to get back into it. I serve as the treasurer of the board, and I was pushed forward to help with communications, and something I can certainly do. And I think if we could do annual season summaries, it'd be a good time to reflect on the season that we just had, update the city on the equipment and the equipment needs that we have up there. And it would be a good, I think, primer for the budget time. So that's kind of what we're here for today, give you an update. So I put together a PowerPoint to kind of highlight some few things, and I recognize a lot of the faces in the room that you've been up on the Hill. You know what it looks like. We had an epic season this year. It was just absolutely probably one of the best we've had. Dave did a tremendous amount of work up there to make it happen, and it really looked good. So my opening slide here is the lift line, which we really don't see too much at the ski hill because the chairlift moves slow, kind of on purpose, so that we don't overload the ski hill with too many skiers. We don't want a super fast quad that takes people all the way up to the top of the hill and then congests the hill. But this was a beautiful day. You can see the lift line is going almost all the way up to the snack shack. And another photo that I had to take a snapshot from John Williams, who's our lead ski patroller and the vice president of the board, announcing that it was an emergency opener on that day, and it was good. So he was calling for everybody to come up and go skiing. So I wanted to give you some numbers. I'm kind of a numbers guy. You guys know that. So Rope Tow opened on November 12th. And we had 75 operational days on the rope tow. So not every day was a lift day, but we sure tried to have the rope tow going for the younger folks and the people learning how to ski. The lift opened on December 3rd, and we had 42 what we call chairlift days, operational days, which was probably the most we've had in recent history that I can remember. The last opening day was April 10th, and we had approximately 5 months of service. So we were up there ready to provide service when we could, and it took 5 months. So that's a pretty long season. Sheridan Alpine Association has memberships, and this year that's an annual membership. We had 521, which is a big number if you think about how many folks are in Cordova in the winter months. I remember like 800 to 1,000 in the winter months. I don't know if that's still current or not, but 521 is a significant portion of that. Season pass holders, we encourage folks to buy season passes. We have season passes for just the rope tow, season passes for the ski lift, and we had 497 of those. So lots of interest, lots of participation. I think a lot of pent-up excitement and energy to do something outdoors from the COVID pandemic. And so I think that was really popular. Lots of young folks, too, learning how to ski. And so this is another shot of another photo of the lift line going all the way up. So that was kind of fun. Our operational highlights, we didn't have any lost days due to mechanical weather stand downs. Weather stand downs is when you open up the lift and then the weather changes its mind, and then we have to close it down. We didn't have any of those, and we didn't lose any days, operational days, to the COVID-19. So the staff was healthy, and it's outside, and every good day that we could, we opened it up. Dave and his team spent 430 hours grooming the trails up there. That's a tremendous amount of time and effort to do that. I'm a groomer, and there's never enough grooming slopes up there, but 430 hours is tremendous. Something else that we wanted to kind of toot our own horn about is that this was the second year of our $20,000 investment into the rental equipment. And over the past 4 years, we've invested $58,000 into rental equipment. And it's very popular in Cordova, especially for the young families and the folks that are just starting to learn how to ski. We've tried to make it easy for them to get into gear, get up on the hill, and have some fun. And through the pandemic, Dave kind of worked out an annual rental, so you don't have to go up there every day and rent equipment. Basically, you rent it for the season, and you take it home, you take care of it, and then bring it back at the end of the season. That really helped out through the pandemic, right? Because you didn't want to have to disinfect things 100 times, but it really worked out very well, and definitely worth the investment, and a good way to keep the young folks into skiing and learning how to ski. And then we've got 3 crazy ladies up there on the hill doing a selfie, and I think you guys probably recognize them. And so I'm showing you all nice blue sunny sky days up there, and you know that was the way it was every single day. But anyway, this was a good shot, good photo that I was able to get and kind of compare it to the old Sun Valley chairlift poster that's out there from back in the day. And I think you guys know the history that the chairlift came from Sun Valley as one that they were replacing, and it was stacked up in the parking lot, and we were able to secure it and get it up on the hill as a community. So another nice, beautiful day. The chairlift maintenance highlights, in general, it was a pretty low repair and maintenance needs year as far as just keeping the equipment running. Lots of greasing and lots of replacing of the sheaves. Greased 7 times and then replaced 4 for the sheaves. So that's what we call general annual repair and maintenance needs, not too much. There's a huge CPI list behind this on some big ticket items, and That's one thing that, again, opening up the communication lines a little bit better with the city is I hope to be back sometime in October with that list, so that right at the beginning of the budget cycle, so that we can both plan, both organizations can plan on how to keep this this huge asset of the communities going. So this slide is just a reminder slide. I don't expect you to read it, but basically the association drafted a letter to the mayor and to the city council. I hope you've had time to read it. Basically, it highlights our imminent need for the equipment right now. Is we noticed stretching of the cable, which is normal, and we contracted Rocky Mountain Lift Services and Supplies to come and do an inspection. They're the ones that have the certificates to look at it and tell us how it is, to keep it in a good, safe running order. And basically they said, thankfully, that we could get through this last season, but this next season it needs to be replaced before we can operate. And I think in the letter, what we wrote was that this has been on the association's radar for some time. We were able to plan for this a little bit, and with that, we kind of put together a chairlift cable replacement cost estimate and budget using our in-house contractors to kind of come up with a cost estimate and what we think that it might take to do that. A lot of this is labor and general conditions, and the materials are basically just the cable and some sawhorses that we need to put together. But SAA has, over the past 3 years, saved some money, and we were able to purchase the new cable for the community and for the city. It's an inch and an eighth inch diameter, and there's 7,447 feet of cable, and that's a picture of it up there on the van at sitting at AML. And so we're pretty proud of that. We saved and pinched some pennies and made it happen. We're also planning to throw another $11,500 of in-kind work into the project. So our donation to the city would be just under $70,000. And if you have this, I don't have it in the packet page number, but the letter page number is page 16 of 24, has the project budget highlighted. And what we were able to do is reach out to the technical specific contractors that have the certification, license, and bonding to replace cable on a chairlift, actually make the splice connection, which is highly technical and requires quite a good deal of attention to meet all the safety requirements. And so we were able to reach out to them, kind of get on their list. These are the folks that kind of travel around all over to the different ski areas. I think they were in Jackson Hole last summer doing their big tram. And we were able to pencil them in for August for Cordova. So we have them penciled in and available. We've also talked to a local contractor here that is also available and would pencil some time in to do the heavy equipment support work that they would need to do as far as moving a big spool like that, and then basically running the cable up and back down the chairlift. The total project, total materials, label, and general conditions, about $142,000. We threw in a project estimating contingency of about 15%, so another $10,400 there. So total construction cost is right over $150,000. So with the association's contribution of just under $70,000. That would leave the city around $83,000 for the project. And then this is a city-owned. I think we probably said that 4, 5, 6 times in the letter. You might have picked that up, but it's a city-owned piece of equipment. The association has a contract to operate it for the city, but it's out of our scope really to do any of the big CIP work and projects. That said, the association has named 3 of its board members to help facilitate and coordinate with the city. That's myself and President Heath Kokan and Paul Schwartzbart. And then obviously Dave's going to be available to assist in the in-kind contributions that we've listed there. So we're standing by waiting to help however we can. We probably need to get together with the city and talk a little bit more details and figure out a project manager for the project so we can get this replaced and make it operational for next ski season. And that leaves me back to the last one, questions. I don't know if you've had time to really talk, or if you had a meeting since the letter, or if this presentation is going to generate another follow-up meeting. So we stand ready to help.
Yeah, this is the first time we've met
Okay.
regarding this. We've had it for a while, a few weeks anyway. So go around the room. Who wants to start?
I'll start.
Kathy?
So I think I was acting city manager when we negotiated the last contract with Ski Hill. And one of the things that we put in that memorandum was to have a season wrap-up presentation so that we would be prepared then for the budget ask.
Yeah.
And so this is just great. This is exactly what we wanted to see happen when we were sitting around the table talking. And I even had Paul Schwartzbart laughing. So it was a good conversation. So I'm really happy. And this is just, it's dynamite what you guys are doing up there. I don't ski, but I see the numbers and I see what it's doing for the community. So it's really great. That's what I just wanted to say. I'm just really pleased to see this presentation.
Thank you. Yeah, I would agree. An annual, this need to be an annual thing. And prior to budget is a better time than in the middle of our year.
Right.
So any other comments from council here at the table? Councilman Berard?
My comment has to do with the budget cycle. So,
Talking to your microphone.
oh, I'm sorry. My questions and stuff have to do with the budget cycle. So from reading through this and looking at listening to the proposal, you guys knew that this was coming last year. Mm-hmm. And for ticket items like this, it would be way better for us, even if you don't have final figures and all that stuff, but you got an idea it's coming and you kind of got an idea of what you might need. If you can come to us in the budget cycle so we can plan for this. Dollars don't flow as freely as they used to from all the sources we get it from. So it makes it way tougher for us to drop it on us in the middle of the year and say, hey, we have people coming in August. We need you to write a check. Is not the best way to work with stuff for public process stuff. And I'm not trying to rake over the coals or any of that stuff, but it would fit into our process better for that. So I guess that was my only statement on this.
Okay. Well, good. And I appreciate that. And I'm very aware of the city's budgeting process. And we did meet last year. We didn't come to the city council with the numbers, but we did meet with the city manager, and I think we met with Kathy too.
Yeah, and I think the cabling was mentioned, but as a future need.
I understand, but when we got it coming up, we know it's going to happen.
Yeah.
You know, stuff like this, other things come up, if we can get a little bit more lead time on it so we can do some financial planning.
I'm hopeful that some infrastructure money is going to fall out of the sky. This would be
flight.
great. This would be great infrastructure money. Or great
Hey,
forward.
thank you guys for the job you're doing up there. It's a great asset to the city, and you guys are doing a really hang-up job of everything up there.
Thank you, Jeff.
Kristen?
I have one comment, which isn't really related to the cable issue, and I was going to save it for later, but Dave is here. But in a town full of unsung heroes, Dave Branshaw stands out. I mean, I walk up there every day with our dogs, and every day he's up there before we are in the morning. And so thank you, Dave, for everything that you put into that facility.
On the line, Vice Mayor Baylor?
Yeah, I would echo Kristen's comment, all the volunteers up there. Dave, what are you looking for in a project manager? Is that somebody you're going to pick off your board? Or are you looking for somebody in town with construction experience, not me? Or are you looking for somebody that's had experience with ski lift and that sort of thing? What's kind of your criteria for that? You mentioned that because I always think a project manager is a pretty important piece of the puzzle.
Oh, yeah, I
And
agree.
then a quick comment, I think this is exactly what the permanent fund is for something that benefits the whole community. Thanks.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure, I'll have Dave speak to that.
So Tom, you're exactly right. Project manager is the one that's going to make this thing happen. The contractors, of course, are going to lay their hands on it and get it done. In our letter to the city, we stopped short of wanting to be the project manager from the association. We don't feel like we're qualified to do that, and it's kind of outside of our scope. We did reach out to a local contractor that's very familiar with doing some work up at the ski hill, and he is willing to help out with the project and be a project manager. On this project, I would think the project manager is more of a coordinator, bringing in outside contractors and coordinating and facilitating them with the local needs that they would need here with a local contractor and local welders, fabricators, those types of guys. So.
Okay, was that it, Tom?
Yeah, I kind of lost the last of it. Yeah, that's it. And I guess if there's anything I can do along those lines to help out with any kind of carpentry work, I could volunteer some time if needed. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Meyer?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it was really nice to hear a report, and I'm glad that you guys have given them yearly from now on. A really good asset to the community, and lastly, the community have that access to these fields. Great season, and a long season. I do have some concerns, like in regard with the budget and the time of year. Budget is always hard, figuring out where to put things. Having apps come up in the middle of our budget is difficult, but I think it's still a good asset to the community. An old list, and I feel really proud that all of your work has been able to keep it up and running. And that there wasn't any down days or local issues is huge. I remember a lot of times, right, the ski hill, younger, stopping for long periods of time. So good work on keeping it up and running. I'm excited that the season is on. And hopefully we can get a report from the city manager about how the process would go. Just because it is city owned, but the Ski Hill Association, you guys have been really doing it all. I'm a little unfamiliar with all that process. I think a lot of it will have to go to the city manager and get brought to us. So it's have to be kind of budget amendment and project layout before that.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Jones?
Yeah, thanks. I think that this is definitely something I want to see the council fund. I think Councilmember Taylor is correct that this is exactly what the permanent fund's for, and I would support into this project. I totally understand where Councilmember Guard is coming from. I wish we would have seen this during the budget sessions, but yeah, it's something that's needed for our community. I also would like to see us, I know it's a need up there, but I would like to see us during this upcoming budget cycle put the $5,000 back in to the ski hill appropriation that was stripped out 3 years ago. And I'd also like to see us fund painting of the towers in the future. I need to proceed to protect that asset. Thank you.
Councilmember Schaefer.
Thank you. The couple of questions that I have been answered. So just yeah, I really appreciated the presentation and all the work that you guys do. And I think it's great if we could get a presentation like this every year. And yes, I agree that getting this information during the budget cycle would be more ideal. But yeah, it's a huge asset for the community. So thanks for all you guys do.
Hey, thank you. Any follow-up questions? Anybody? Well, it sounds like you've got a plan, Dave, to both Daves, I guess, to bring us a capital improvement list before budget time. And let's make this an annual event where you give us a summary of the season. It's pretty incredible to see how many members you guys have up there. And you know, that's a fifth of the whole town official population. So that's pretty impressive. So thanks for all the work you guys do. And city manager will try to figure out where the money's going to come from, and we'll get it on our pending agenda to switch those pencils to pens on those contracts. So thanks for the presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, next up, we've got Bert Adams from NVE giving us a presentation on the healthcare. Did you have a PowerPoint as well?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just going to slide over to the side.
All right, can you guys hear me? Okay. Well, Mayor, City Council, thanks for letting us present tonight. We have a couple, 3 or 4 online. I can't tell if they're online, but I'd like them to introduce themselves. It's our consultants, our team that has put this proposal together. Kelly, me, Jack, Carolyn, are you guys online?
Yeah.
Let's,
Yes, Kelly.
Great. So I sent you guys an email in the order of which you guys introduce, if you guys can do that.
Sure, who do you want to go first?
You, Kelly.
Here's a short straw. My name is Kelly Leeson. I'm with KBL Engineering Services, and my primary function is as a facility engineer and planner. I spent 26 years working for the Indian Health Service, primarily doing health facility and health facility construction. So most of my experience has been on the federal side, but I've been in the private sector for about 2.5 years now.
All right. Jack, are you on? I didn't get a text from Jack that he was actually on, but it's Jack Ferguson Associates. He's our consultant that works out of DC. He really does all the legwork there in DC for us and sets up the meetings that we need to have with the delegation or with any federal agency on the projects that we are seeking funds for. Next, Mead, are you on?
Yes, I'm on. It's nice to be before the city council again. I years ago was oil spill coordinator for the city of Cordova, helped get the Shepherd Point Road project started and the Prince William Sound Science Center, as well as many other things during the spill, and had a chance to work with many of you then or afterwards. I've been retained by the Native Village of Eac to work on both the Shepherd Point Road and, in this case, on helping to structure an appropriate plan. I work very closely with Jack Ferguson on a number of issues. He's the lobbyist, I'm the capitalist, but just trying to figure out how to make something come along that is sustainable. So we'll be helping Bert and his team at AD&D on healthcare.
All right, thanks. And Carolyn?
Yes, good evening. My name is Carolyn Crowder. I'm president of Crown Consulting and Management Services. I have over 40 years of working in tribal health management, specializing in strategic health development and transition management for tribes that are looking at either assuming their healthcare programs or expanding their health programs. I've been working at the national level with Indian Health Services for a number of years. I've served as president and CEO of Norton Sound Health Corporation for 20 years, and then worked with system design of the Aleutians of Love Island for 13 years. We're going out and working in my own consulting company. I've had the privilege of working with Native Village of Eac for just over a year now, as they look at some of the strategic objectives they have with expanding healthcare, replacing facilities, and optimizing, the revenue sources available to them as a tribal health entity. And pleasure to be here. I'm especially excited about this project because when I first started in Norton Sound as a young manager, Dr. Kitchener Head was the medical director, and we were able to hire his son, Dr. David Head, who served for over 30 years at Norton Sound, and now third generation head is working in Cordova. So I'm excited about this project and working with another Dr. Head as we look to create some amazing health system improvements for the city of Cordova, for the Native Village of Eac, and for the benefit of all the residents there. So thank you so much for having me.
Okay, thanks. And I also have Carrie Collins, health administrator, behind me, and Mark Hoover, tribal chairman. And this makes up our team that put together this proposal. We have Deputy Director Brooke Malley, also part of the team. So in our last meeting with the City Council several months ago, one of the things we talked about was infrastructure funds through the American Rescue Plan Act and the infrastructure bill, hoping that those would produce some healthcare construction funds, of which they didn't. Neither of those, the infrastructure bill started out with some construction funds, and then last minute it got yanked out of there, so no construction funds were in either of those pots of money. We kept looking for opportunities for healthcare construction, and we'll let you guys know we'll continue to track it, and when an opportunity comes for us, we will submit for that. A few weeks ago, the opportunity through an appropriations proposal through our delegation became available. We had about 10 to 12 days to put together a proposal to them, and so we've put extensive time into the last 2 or 3 years into healthcare. We've put about $500,000 to $1 million into assessing the buildings, looking at financials. We've presented you with one of the documents the last time we were in meeting with you guys. So we are here tonight to ask for a letter of support for this proposal we submitted. The Yelonka Community Health Center staff and CCMC staff had a planning meeting on Wednesday, April 20th, that went over the HSP model. That is the starting point for services, square footage, and cost estimates for a facility. And Kelly is online here, and he's going to explain what the HSP model is and the process they went to get to the square footage of services and the cost estimate for it. So Kelly, I will turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you very much. HSP stands for Health Systems Planning, and it's a software model that was developed by the Indian Health Service, and it's used basically to plan for all of IHS-supported facilities. And it's probably the only comprehensive tool that I know of in the country. There might be others, but it's the only one that I am aware of. And it does a couple of things. Its base is basically it looks at all the services, the Indian Health Service facilities, hospitals, health centers, clinics, and looks at all the demographics and comes up with a program of services based on your demographics. It does two things. One, it gives you what they recommend is needed for any particular demographic. If you've got a population of so many people, they'll say, you know, these are your primary care services, these are your dental services, these are your pharmacy services, and it kind of gives you an idea of the volume of the workload that it would predict. It'll give you an estimate on the space, and then an estimate also on the staffing required to put that in there. It is a very useful tool. It is a very flexible tool. It is basically one size fits all across the nation, but they realized that there's no such thing as a one size fits all. So they made it very flexible so that when you put your demographics in there and your population projections, and you look at the numbers, you look at those workloads, and you say, no, this is too high, or no, this is too low. It allows you to make those adjustments. And as you make those adjustments, it will go ahead and make the recommendations for all the supporting functions. And a good example is if you were to add in acute care. And let's say that the population that you put in there projected, yeah, we have a workload for those numbers, but you don't meet the threshold that would require to provide those services in-house. A lot of times it does that because if you don't have the numbers, then you would have problems with some of the providers meeting the required hours to maintain their certificates. But it allows you to override that. And so if you override it and say, okay, we're going to put in so many beds into this facility, we'll take a look at it and say, okay, well, what's that do to your pharmacy? What's that do to your housekeeping? How many more pounds of linen are you going to have? What's that going to do to your administration function? And it makes all these adjustments. And so that by the time you get this dialed in, that you basically have a program that says, okay, here's our projected workload. This is the space requirements that we're going to have for this. And then also, this is what the staffing that we estimate is going to be for that package or for that level of services. There's an accompanying program that goes with it. It's called, it goes into a document called Program Requirements. It basically takes all these different functions and these programs of services that's in there and says, okay, for this service, here's the design criteria. So you basically get a document that you can turn over to an architect, and now they have a basis for designing your facility. Come up with the size you need for that function. It'll come up with a flow diagram. For example, dental. We'll say, okay, here's a typical layout of 5 dental chairs. You're going to have 3 open ops, or you're going to have 2 closed ops. You're going to have, your lab. You're going to have your sterile room. You're going to have your admin room. A place for your PANA, rental for your X-ray, bathroom. So it just kind of goes through a flow diagram of all these things you need, and then allows the architect to take this and say, okay, let's design according to this criteria. So it is a flexible program, and where it gets into predicting services, that's a great variable. The way different areas provide their services, what services they provide varies considerably. And so I recognize that and allows you to make those variations. The workshop that we had went through basically the base run. We did our population projection for Cordova, plugged it in, and said, okay, based on these numbers, this population, this age group, that age group, these are the services that we estimate that you need. We look at it, and a couple of the inherent functions of the program, based on my experience, is that it typically overestimates dental and it underestimates mental health. And so, some of the things we did was we went in there, we made some of those adjustments, saying, no, this has to be smaller, this has to be bigger. The numbers that we had in there from the base run did not trigger the threshold for acute care. And so we bumped those numbers up until they did, and so we got that put in there. And it was at minimal of I think 5 or 6 beds at that point. But this is an iterative process, and so usually you go through this process 3 to 4 times, where you go back and forth and you look at these services and adjust the size and make sure that it meets what needs are of the population that you're going to serve. We've done one iteration, and so this is the basis of what we use for the CTS application. And I mean, if we had more time, we would have dialed this in and fine-tuned it a lot, but we just, we had about 10 days to basically react and get this into DC for this application. So that's kind of the long-winded description of it. If anybody has any questions concerning this, I'll be happy to answer them.
You want to just do questions after, or, okay.
However you want to work it, it's fine with me.
All right, thanks, Kelly. So the Native LGV has met with the Alaska Congressional Delegation, tribal and federal funders to discuss the need for modern clinical healthcare facilities in Cordova. In 2021, we met with our delegation for new healthcare facilities with 25 beds for $100 million. And the census of the delegation staff was for us to downsize our ask. We have not downsized our ask. In fact, it's increased. But we have supporting data for this appropriations proposal. A couple things that Kelly had said is he's mentioned IHS a couple times, maybe more than that, on this HSP model. We are not building a IHS facility. It's really a tool that we're using that is the best tool that we know that is going to give you the services that is needed, the square footage to provide those services, is why we're using this model. This proposal is not going to solve it all. If we get 15 million, 50 million, 75 million of the ask, we'll take it. With this, by the end of the day, it's going to be several funding sources that it's going to take to build this facility. This is the one opportunity that we have to get a baseline start on funding, and that's really the intent of this proposal. A common front and support of appropriation can help us get the means to move forward. I'm not going to read all the bullets in the slides. On this, this is tribal funds have grown Alaska rural healthcare. This is just an example of some of the facilities in the state. The key thing on this page is the Copper Center in Glen Allen, square footage, 31,000 square feet, and the population there's about 2,600. And you look at the Native LGV at 8,000 square feet with the same population. There's a need, as we all know, for a facility in Cordova that handles all of the healthcare needs. The Native Village of Eak has submitted an appropriations request in the amount of $146 million as base funding for replacement of healthcare facilities. This request was made based on the results of the IHS Health Facilities Planning Program that Kelly just went over, a program well-known and accepted by Congress. It's also important to point out it's careful to request nothing that endangers Cordova's critical access hospital designation. Long-term growth requires our community be competitive in offering healthcare and long-term care. Proposal shows why aging facilities need replacement. So our ask are three things. One, a letter of support from the mayor that we can give to the delegation. The draft was included in your guys' packet. A common front when Alaska delegation visits Cordova or city officials visit Washington, D.C. We will be asked that when we go there next week, who's all in support of this appropriations and this healthcare project. Encourage continued visioning process between CCMC and Alanka leadership. Our council has encouraged the same. We see last year's ordinance change as a commitment to, in principle, to work with us if and when appropriation gets traction. So that's our ask. It's I'm done. I'll take questions, and if you have questions for Kelly, happy to answer them.
When are you needing this letter by?
So we're going to DC next week, so we'd need it by then. We're meeting with Sullivan and Markowski on, is it May 12th?
Okay, questions from council? Councilmember Gard?
This is a big dump all at once with the long dearth of information coming out, anything as far as information at the council level. We're finally getting our hospital up to where it's kind of maintaining its own financially. And the things I heard talked about in the clinic you're proposing to build are kind of duplicating a lot of the services that are going to take dollars away from the hospital we got. That's keeping it's our critical access designation. But anyway, that's what we've got to have the Coast Guard here. So if we lose any more revenue out of the hospital, if we're not bringing all this together, and I don't know whether it's buying the hospital, that may not be a deal with as old as the building is, or somehow dealing with that. I'm having a hard time understanding how this is all going to work for everybody. If we siphon many more dollars away from the hospital, we're left with an entity that's not there to pay the 15 million or whatever in PERS debt that we've incurred as a community. So I get a lot of questions. I'm not against this, but I don't have enough information on my plate now to be able to confidently vote to say, send a letter of support. I just feel like I'm in the dark.
Yeah, I don't know how to answer that. I'm willing to sit down with any council to go over kind of the work that we've done so far. This facility, was it 3 years ago, the Native Village Act was approached to take over the hospital or purchase or manage. And we have not made a decision on that. There's a number of reasons why we have not made a decision on that. And the biggest one is the IHS joint venture package, which brings a staffing package, which you're talking staffing a facility that you build for the next 30, 40 years, or for as long as we have our IHS compact agreement. That is too valuable for us to move right now. So with that said, that is really the major reason why no decision in terms of that has been made. However, there is strategic planning in terms of how do we transition into that phase does happen. So you're looking at 1 to 2 more years before IHS releases its next round of joint venture. Right now, this fits in with that option. And, you know, I'd have to hear your many questions before we can go down that road and attempt to answer it. But I'm willing to answer it. It can't be tonight. And I'll sit down with you guys and go over as much detail as you guys want to get into and answer those questions.
Okay. I'm not trying to roast you or not be supportive or any of that, but we have responsibilities to the whole community here with the health system we have. And I don't know, I mean, we're all working towards trying to figure out something that works, whether it was the EX taking over the existing hospital, whether it was a melding and a meshing of the two. But when I heard things like talking about the new pharmacy and the new clinic and the x-rays and a bunch of the ancillary services that are revenue generators, I believe are revenue generators for the CCMC, I just don't have any answers in my head about how all this works out so that we're not left as a community with this big $15 million anchor around our neck when we're all said and done.
Right. You know, the impression I was under is that this is step one in terms of merging the two together and not really saying who owns what, because that's going to have to happen at some point, whether it's several years, 10 years, 15 years. The big question on duplication of services and competing with each other is going to have to be addressed. We're not trying to get into that level of detail right now. We think that if this proposal gets any traction, that it starts the process of going down that road to where we sit down and we plan and we work those details out.
Okay.
Kristen?
Thanks. So just so I understand, you talked about going to visit the delegation next week. And I heard that you had 10 days to submit a proposal and then you've got the meeting with the delegation. So is this letter for the application or to take to the delegation?
The letter is to take to the delegation when we meet with them next week.
Okay. And the ask is, I saw a figure earlier, 146 million, I think?
146 million is the projected dollar amount for the HSP model that Kelly explained. That they ask, we're not going to get that. We're not going to get that. We're just showing them for that model that we presented to them, that's the total cost. And whatever the delegation or this appropriations will give us, that's the base start for us to build the facility and then start planning.
Okay.
This facility more than likely is going to be 200 million by the time you put everything together with it. Merging services, merging hospital, clinical. I mean, I think the door's open for whatever level of community wants to get into the healthcare portion of who owns what, or if it's a merger, or how's that going to look. We're not building a clinic. This proposal is not a clinic just for NVE.
Yeah, I think it's hard to, like Councilmember Guard said, it's really tough to support something that we don't really know what it's going to look like ultimately. I mean, I think that's the struggle I have. So I could say, writing a letter that says we support a process to analyze healthcare needs and how respective partners fulfill those needs. I don't know if there's any leeway to work on the language in the letter, but anyway, I think it's that it's tough to say, to say we wholeheartedly support it when we don't know what it's really going to look like, that's all. But, and what the dollar amount is. So if we had any more clarity, and I understand that you can't give it because that's part of the process. You know, that's what we're doing. We're trying to go through this planning process. So anyway, that's my comment. Thanks.
Councilmember Meyer?
Yeah, so this request, is it just for a clinic, or are you putting a proposal in for a completely new hospital that has all of the state-of-art access to everything that we kind of need or that's been identified as a community?
I didn't get the question. Could you repeat that? It's hard to understand.
Yeah, is this just for a clinic, or is this for a whole new hospital that has, long-term care, dental, clinic, mental health, maybe even birthing? Does it have kind of all of the access that has been identified that is needed in the community?
Yeah, so it's not, it doesn't have long-term care. When we were in DC the last time, it was a clear message that long-term care can't be included in this in this building. However, our council's been very clear to us that long-term care needs to be funded, and we've already started with other options on funding a long-term care for Cordova. But it's clear to a clear message from our council is you're going to build a long-term care. We can't include it in this because that's just the way this model works. It's going to, I can't go down and answer the details of, between acute, dental, critical, what's really in this. That's really going to come out as if we get funds. The rest of that is going to get flushed out.
Okay. I guess I'll just give kind of my train of thought, and it's kind of been the same as it always has been regarding healthcare in Cordova. I think that we do have an aging building currently as our hospital. NVE has a clinic, and then UCMC has a clinic and hospital, and some long-term care, and I would love to see a facility that was all-in-one, that really benefited all of Cordova, that had long-term care, dental, birthing center, something where we can have babies in Cordova again, kind of encompass all of that. And I think that we need to be looking long-term, and I would support any money coming into Cordova to build a new facility, because currently we have two locations in Cordova that, provide services with overlapping and different customers, if you will. Some of us just go to NVE because that is where our healthcare is provided. So anything that can be more up to date in that facility, I think benefits a large portion of the community, and everybody else can also go there. So I think that is a benefit, and I would support funding for what that looks like. I think this is very vague, so it's hard to really come to a concrete thing, but I do support updating our facilities, even though CCMC is doing so much better on their cash flow, and I'm very excited about that, and they have done a good job with that. But looking long term, we do need large funding coming into the community for a new facility. I have some same concerns that Councilmember Guard brought up, like putting services. So to kind of keep that in mind, I don't know if our letter can be somewhat vague on that line. I think that we already did one, and maybe that could be somewhat repeated. It was pretty vague, but it was talking about funding for new facilities for healthcare in Cordova. That NDE is going down. So I would be in support of that. But I do have some of the same concerns of this being kind of vague, but I understand that money and opportunity comes up pretty quickly. So those are just kind of my comments. Thanks.
Bert, may I interject a little bit? Carolyn.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah, so I just wanted to say, so, I've worked in Nortontown. I'm from Nome originally. And we, decades ago, moved forward and purchased the Maynard McDougall Hospital, which was owned by the Methodist Women's Group. And then we were able to leverage, our resources we received to Indian Health Services to build a world-class hospital there that serves the entire community. And it's always, been our goal in the tribal health model, I think, that Bert has talked about before, that the great benefit in having facilities that serve the whole community, whether it's tribal beneficiaries or Medicare beneficiaries, or the population at large with insurance or no insurance for that matter. So as NDE was moving forward with the project, we had the option of going solo, if you will, and saying that we would only pursue a tribal facility. But the reality is we also provide services to the entire community under a HRSA, Health Resources and Service Administration grant that we receive that tribes are allowed to apply for. And it's been very successful in developing, the outpatient services that are provided. The decision was made, however, that there is great benefit in having a hospital in Cordova. Obviously, it benefits Coast Guard and retaining that service there. It also provides a referral center for our population that are being served, and has an opportunity for us to leverage resources that we have available to us as tribes that other entities or organizations may not have access to. So I think the decision in this very, very short time frame was to support looking at a larger project, not making any decisions about who runs the hospital or who runs the clinic. We know we have our clinic in the game, but looking at how do we maximize the opportunity available through our tribal special relations we have with the federal government, and kind of the opportunities that are available to tribes, specifically through the infrastructure bill and other things that are happening. So I think we made a very quick decision that we weren't going to be exclusive in our to try and present this as a total facility that will benefit the whole community, without saying that it's going to be managed by NVE or it's going to be managed by the city through the hospital board, and even getting to the granular level of saying it's going to include this or that, but just say based on the whole system planning model that Kelly mentioned for the population of our size, native and non-native, and including transients, and all populations that would potentially use to serve this facility over the next few years, and then taking into account, I think the numbers are kind of seem large. They do take into account the inflation that we're experiencing in the healthcare industry and the construction industry. That's nationwide. It's not unique to Cordova or even Alaska. But taking into account those things, and just at a very broad level, say if we can go together and say we support the development of a health campus that includes, the inpatient, the outpatient, the specialty services that we could and should be afforded for a community our size, with the remote location and the isolation we have, and limited access we have to the air and weather and all the things we all live with as Alaskans, then that would be our best shot. It would have been very easy to say, no, we're just going to go for our small clinic, and it's going to be an eye test clinic, and we would accept those dollars. But I think that we're trying to look at a bigger vision, and it's a model that has been replicated not just in Nome, where I'm from, but in other parts of the state of Alaska, where the tribal health organizations have been able to leverage the dollars that we receive through Indian Health Services, through HRSA, and through multiple tribal-specific appropriations to be able to optimize. And, you know, in all honesty, when we finally come up with what that dollar amount looks like, you know, we'll be making some hard decisions, and there'll be probably some financing involved. But financing for tribal health investment has proven to be very successful with different private financing and foundations and that kind of thing. So I think it's a win-win for everyone to support the concept. You know, maybe you know, the dollar amount is seems high, but it's based on this model that has been accepted by Congress in supporting facilities that's trusted by Congress is the best model we have to put forward right now, and then adding the inflationary cost to that. Very much intend to fine-tune that, working with the city, the hospital board, moving forward in this project, but given the very tight time frame to get something on the table, I think it would be beneficial for you know, to show some unity as far as the concept and the intent of this, which is to build, you know, a modern, up-to-date, you know, world-class, if you will, facility that will serve this population, not just now, but for generations into the future, and to, you know, build for growth within the community as economies change. Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Jones.
Yeah, I think I'd share some of the same concerns as Councilmember Gard here. But ultimately, I think that sounds like an intriguing project. Don't really have interest in having two major healthcare facilities, though. But we need a public safety building, so maybe our hospital can turn into that.
Councilmember Baylor?
Yes, thank you. I do not have any concerns here. I think if it did warrant some concern, we would probably have our hospital administrator at this meeting pointing some of those issues out to us. But although there's not a letter of support from our hospital administrator, there's also nothing coming forward to caution moving forward. So this has been a long process. We have been engaged with ND on and off over the last few years. I've seen it work in other communities. I think it can work in our community, and I'm really thankful to them for moving this forward and trying to make this happen for the betterment of all of Cordova. You know, we've been talking about how the hospital's running in the black now, which they are. We've got good administration down there, but don't be fooled. If it wasn't for the COVID funds, both the city budget and the hospital budget would not be balanced. That's not going to go on forever. Funds for native health care will. So I'm in full support of this project. Thank you.
Councilmember Schaefer?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate the presentation and the discussion so far. I do think that it's hard to get a sense of what exactly is being proposed from the presentation. So I guess I don't know if there's like an executive summary from the proposal that could be shared, just to have a little fuller picture of what exactly we are being asked to support. I think that would be helpful. Yeah, that's my main concern. Otherwise, I'm definitely in support of collaboration or, you know, some solution moving forward for our healthcare in town. I mean, at the end of the day, whatever's going to get our community the best healthcare, you know, the healthcare option that is the best fit for the community I'm in support of. It's just at this exact moment, I can't necessarily understand exactly what is being proposed.
Councilmember Sherman.
This is a lot of information, and I know we had a presentation earlier that talked about a health care campus, which this is very different. This is very different from what we were presented earlier. So I'm not in favor of supporting this letter as it is written right now. I'd like to ask for a special meeting at pending agenda, because I have a lot of questions that I'd like to have answered. And I believe we have time to still compose a letter that shares our support before you head to Washington. And so since this was just kind of presented to us as is, I mean, I'm already editing the letter. I'm sure Kristen is too. So I think we'd like to put our heads together just a little bit so that we could really make it a good, strong, supportive letter. And but I still have some questions I need answered.
Yeah, I'll just use my executive privilege here. I think what everybody is concerned about is that Cordova wants more services, which this can likely provide. But we don't want to lose what we've got in the process of that. And it's just, you know, are we going to end up with, you know, we want to keep the emergency room, we want the long-term care, we want what we're getting. We need a lab, whoever's providing that. And it doesn't really matter in the end, to me, who provides that, whether that's being provided by a joint venture, a buyout, a collaboration, working with each other, as long as it doesn't end up in the end requiring a $1 to $5 million subsidy from the city at our budget time. And I think we're way ahead of that process. I think I'm understanding that we need to get started so that we can work on all of those things. But we're the same community. I think we can work out a letter that supports the concept, or, you know, supports getting funding, but certainly a lot of planning has to go into what that is. You talk about your HSP model and that it's 88,000 square feet or something, but we haven't seen, nobody here at this table has seen what that 88,000 square feet entails. Does that include an emergency room? Does that include those kind of things? So, but I think I agree with Councilmember Sherman. We can have a special meeting here in the next couple of days, and we can work with, I don't know, how long are you in town for, Bert?
I leave tomorrow, but I could call in. Carrie's here. We have staff here that could.
Yeah, I think we could get a generic letter that, you know, that supports modernizing the health facilities in our town, and in collaboration with the, you know, you've already got that in there. We've been working well together. The city, CCMC, and Alonka have both been working well together. I think they haven't heard that we haven't been up through now anyway, and so we want to work together. We've been talking about this whole thing for how many years? Those of us been on council for a while have, you know, this has been in discussions for a long time. We had the community-wide workshops and determined that the Indian health model was the model that would best suit us, and so we've been working towards that, and you know, we're getting closer. It's all about the money at this point in time, and you need money to carry out the planning. So I think we can work on that. Kristen?
Yeah, thanks. I think that's a great idea. I do, yes, and I'm all for a letter that says we are a strong collaborative partner for sure. And I love the idea that you all might have access to funding for dental services. I think that could be a huge asset because Dr. Urata is not going to practice forever, and it would be really great to be able to have dental care in town. And I imagine that expecting somebody to come in and start their own new practice is probably maybe not realistic. So if you guys can help with that, that would be terrific.
Great.
So does that sound adequate?
Sounds good. Can I-
We'll make a plan to have a meeting here in the next couple of days and put together, maybe we can have some people work on a workshop. Our pending agenda will schedule something here shortly before, so it's certainly in time for you guys to have in your hands when you go back there.
Okay, great. Thank you. And I'll close by saying, the vision for the Native Village of Eak and healthcare for Cordova is everything you guys are talking about. We don't want to lose any services that we currently have. We want to increase, improve, and deliver quality healthcare to this community. Right now, this appropriation does not spell that out because it can't. We can't right now. But our whole vision at the end is exactly what you guys are talking about. And I think one thing that we can all be excited for is the ability and the potential of us working together to make sure that this does happen. And that's our vision when it comes to working together with the city of Cordova and going down the road of healthcare and what is that going to look like. So thanks for your guys' time, and let me know when that meeting is and we can arrange for what you guys need.
Okay, thank you, Bert. Thank you, your whole team there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that takes us down to audience comments regarding agenda items. Anybody?
That's all the farther we've gotten.
Yeah. Mr. Gleason.
Dave Gleason, 609 Cedar Street. I'm a little disappointed. 3 years ago, we asked for help, and from NVE, they were gracious, and I won't get into all the stuff that we had to go through to get the help. And for me, it's real simple. It's 88,000 square foot building that's $146 million to have a medical center in Cordova that's for everybody, not CCMC here and Lonka there. Now we've got one building. I can't see how we can't support and ask for that money. I also would support the money that the ski hill is looking for. That's one of the best things that the city has to offer in the wintertime. But I really think we need to support that letter. We need a letter of support for that funding. I think that after everything that NVE has done to find out what they need, we owe them that. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Any other audience comments? Barb.
Barb Jewell, mile 2.2 Whiteshed Road. I wanted to start out by saying I was bragging on the Sheridan Alpine Association and the city with a graduate student who came and shadowed with us at the hospital this week. They've really done an amazing job, and to look at that group and see how much money they raised in support of the repairs and all the work that they did, and it's just, it's a great thing, and I'm really impressed, and I'm really grateful that the city and the Sheridan Alpine Association worked together to provide that. Now I'm going to have to contradict my friend Dave. Sorry, Dave. I know that you're aware that I've followed the process of healthcare in Cordova almost since the day I got here, because having good healthcare services for my family was a critical piece of making the decision to move here, along with the school system. And I'm deeply grateful for the amount of time and energy and effort that NVE and the city have put into looking at healthcare services in Cordova. I think I am concerned about the city council writing a letter to support a proposal that no one has seen. I'm concerned that we might be making a commitment without knowing what we're really aiming for. And the devil really is in the details with these big projects. I hear NV's commitment to creating a healthcare system that serves all of the citizens in the community, and I believe that. And the devil is in the details. It's an extremely, as they have learned, and we know, it's an extremely complex thing to run a hospital and an ER and a long-term care and primary care. And funding sources are complex. Billing and revenue sources are complex. Finding the workforce, even if we have the funding for it, are we going to be able to find the workforce? All of those things need to be deeply considered, and I'm concerned that the city's being asked to support a proposal, again, without having ever seen it. The other piece for me that I would really like to see when you have your special meeting is that the Cordova Authority Board is included. As an individual citizen of this community, they are my elected representatives when it comes to healthcare, and I'm not seeing them be a part of this conversation, and that's concerning to me. So whereas I see that we're all partners trying to improve and expand healthcare services in Cordova, I really think the devil's in the details, and we need to be very careful as we walk through it. So I appreciate your careful consideration and all the good questions and all the great information that Bert and his team have brought here. And I hope that we can get more details about what these proposals are and what people's vision is. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else from the audience? Seeing none, then we'll move on to the chairpersons and representatives of boards and commissions, CCMC.
Hi, everyone. I'll try to keep this not too long, but obviously I probably have a lot to say tonight. I think that this process, as I've got into it and working on this collaboration, has been going really well. And at times we are working really closely, and at times we get busy and communication breaks down. And these funding opportunities are coming up really quick. So I understand people are moving really fast. We all want to take advantage of that infrastructure money for Cordova. I absolutely do support that. That being said, I haven't had a whole lot of input into this process or into this application process. I do want to say something about the HSP model. This model doesn't support the hospital services necessarily based on our community size. I believe that's because the current political climate is one that they are not giving critical access hospital designations out to communities. I've spoke with similar sized community physicians in places that don't have critical access hospitals but have the extended stay ER, and they wish that they could get that designation. I think the city council and probably Ed Zine was really amazing getting that for our community. So I've been advocating for that. I'm sure that Kelly and Bert and Carrie are sick of hearing me say we can't give up that designation because it's just so important. And they hear it. I know that they know that that's important now. We've been talking about this joint venture being the path forward, and when our community has the opportunity for that, we need to take advantage. Right now, Medicare and Medicaid are hospital solvent. We're funded for the foreseeable future. The legislation is going to fund Medicare and Medicaid, and critical access hospitals are going to stay okay. But 20 years down the road, that might not be the case, and we need to pool all of our resources here. We've been talking about this for decades in Cordova. I want to make it very clear that I'm advocating for moving forward together. But I share your same reservations. I also don't want to be left with a competing building that has many of the services that the hospital offers, but hasn't taken over hospital services. I think there's probably a way that we can have some assurances from NVE as they build this that we know that they're not going to compete. So just thinking outside of the box, this is the first step. We knew that from that meeting a while ago that we needed to get infrastructure funding to build a campus, and then the joint venture and the staffing package comes next. It's hard to, I have reservations. It's hard to take that leap of faith, trusting that we're all going to work together, but I do think it is the first step. So I'm hopeful that we can include the Hospital Authority Board, include City Council, and include the ICHC, the Longca Clinic, ICHC is the Longca Clinic, and MVE, and kind of come up with a quick decision to support this, but in a way that we can safely do it and protect our critical access hospital. The only other thing that I have to add tonight is we are also in the middle of doing our community health needs assessment, and we will be sending out surveys to everyone in the community. Please respond to those surveys. They help us guide our process. They're required, regulatory required every 3 years, but they help us guide how we, where we focus our services and what the community perceives the needs of the hospital is. Are there any questions for me?
Any questions online for Dr. Sanders? Okay, don't hear anybody piping up, so thank you, Doctor.
Thank you. Thanks.
School board rep. Just had a workshop, but anything to add?
I'll add the fun stuff now instead of just the budgetary stuff. We're coming upon the end of the school year, so about 3 weeks left. Lots going on. Graduation coming up. Congratulations to all those students and families that got them there. We have a number of music students going to state this week, so congratulations there, and we wish them well. We also have a lot of staffing positions that are going to be looking to be filled. So that's been taking a lot of administration time and effort to have that happen. Along with those staffing things, we have a few retirements that are coming up. And I just wanted to state them. Doug Carroll has been with the district teaching for 17 years. Lovey Brock has 22 years with us. And Mrs. Harding has over 30 years. So if you see those guys, just give them our huge thanks. You know, it's been a real asset to the community, and they'll be missed, but we wish them well. Also, the administration has looked for community input on our next year's calendar structure, with some conversations happening throughout the year about the 4-day school week and the 5-day school week. So if you see that out there, the due date to get that in is May 6th. That's all I have.
It's Friday.
Yes, Friday, May 6th.
Any questions for school?
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Okay, we don't have a student council rep at this time, so the consent calendar is before you.
Move to approve this consent calendar. Oh.
You don't need to approve, just if you want to pull anything from
I
it.
just always
holler it out.
pause, I don't run right into it in
Okay.
case anybody's gonna pull. On the consent calendar, Tom Baylor,
Yes.
Ken Jones,
Yes.
Ann Schaefer,
Yes.
Kristen Carpenter,
Yes.
Jeff Guard,
Yes.
Melina Meyer,
Yes.
and Kathy Sherman.
Yes.
Consent calendar is approved. Sorry, did I yell at you? I didn't mean to yell.
Okay, I could take a moment here. There in the consent calendar was a proclamation of appreciation. I'd like to read that for you now. The City of Cordova, Alaska, proclamation of appreciation to David Gleason. I, Mayor David Allison, do hereby issue this proclamation of appreciation to David Gleason for his service and valuable contributions to the City of Cordova while serving as City Council member from 2019 to 2022. Whereas David Gleason was elected to serve as City Council member in March 2019, and despite running unopposed, he received more than 85% of the ballots cast in the election. A testament to his broad likability among his fellow Cordovans. And whereas during his tenure as on council, David Gleason was instrumental in an important and successful city manager search and hiring process. And whereas his positive and upbeat demeanor helped the mayor, city council, and citizens of Cordova get through the stressful COVID-19 pandemic. And whereas David Gleason was a knowledgeable and discerning council member who became known for championing important causes such as school district funding, fisheries issues, and Cordova Harbor projects. And whereas at city council meetings, He thoughtfully communicated his opinion regarding the competency and proficiency of city staff members, which boosted morale and ensured employees felt valued and appreciated. And whereas David Gleason's straightforward manner and honesty became his hallmark, and he lent an air of comic relief to sometimes tense meeting topics, which allowed his fellow council members to feel more relaxed and at ease. Now therefore be it proclaimed that the mayor, city council members, city staff, and citizens of Cordova do hereby express their sincere appreciation to David Gleason for his invaluable service to the city of Cordova. Dave, are you still here?
You've officially been eulogized.
Come on up, Dave. We got a little gift here for you, too. Gift? Yeah, it's fine. Thanks, sir. Thanks, David. Yeah. That's for you.
We miss you, but we love your wife.
She is better looking.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, we don't have any bids. Report of officers, the mayor's report. My report is written in the packet. The letter that I wrote to industry was reviewed by Dr. Sanders and Dr. Head from Milanka. And they okayed that, and that went to all of the processors and a few of the other businesses and the Chamber of Commerce. And I think I either talked to face-to-face or over the phone to all of the processors regarding that. So that's in there. There is another letter that we were approached last weekend to write a letter for a mariculture support of a mariculture grant through USDA. And in they needed that right away. They wanted it during the weekend, and told them that I would have to review it. And turns out that there are other applicants in our community applying for the same funding. So instead of supporting a particular grant, we just supported mariculture in our region. And I hope that was okay with council. I reviewed it with the manager and Susan, and we want to support those kind of things in the community, but not necessarily. I told both the two that I knew about competing proposals that the council could never support one over the other without at least a formal presentation by both. So in the short time that we had, we weren't going to get to that point. So a generic letter was written, and that will be in your packet. I think it was emailed to all of you. It will be in your in the full packet for the community next meeting. There's a emergency EMO, Emergency Management Organization, with Heather Brandon's group tomorrow at noon. You're all invited. It's here. If you want to come, give an update on COVID and Alice training and all of the emergency stuff, not just COVID. So that will be tomorrow here at noon. Other than that, I don't think there's anything new that's not on my my report there. So, any questions for myself? Okay, move on to the manager's report. Ellen.
So I also put a written report, page 42 in your packet. If you have any questions, I'm happy to entertain them. I did want to let you know that yesterday afternoon and this morning, we had the team of Croft and Associates architects in town looking at our proposed public safety building that was initially designed in 2012. So we're looking at updating that to make it make it possible to be competitive for any grant opportunities that exist. So we're well on our way, and thank you to my team for being so open and receptive to showing them everything and giving them a real good foundation for how we want to proceed with public safety. So other than that, if there's any questions, I'm happy to address them. We won't have, I don't believe we're presenting anything on the harbor, right? Yeah, if there's any questions about the harbor update. Right now, we're busy with grant opportunities, writing grant applications. We do have our design team looking at some alternatives in the harbor, which will then circle back and get presented to the Harbor Commission and Planning Commission and any other relevant entities before coming to City Council. So clicking away there.
Any questions for the manager?
Yeah, this is Councilmember Myers.
Yeah, go ahead, Council.
Could you send us what the public safety building from 2012 looks like, just over email, if you find it me? I don't know that I've ever seen it.
Do you want the full design proposal that we have on record?
Yeah, that'd be great. Just, I don't know that I've ever seen it before.
Okay. And just for everyone's FYI, in going through the process, that building was initially designed to be presented or to be located on city property between 2nd and 3rd, where the old library museum was. And since that is no longer an option, it looks as though we'll be looking at a significant, basically start from scratch approach. So I can share it, but I just wanted to let you know that it is no longer a relevant document.
Okay, that sounds reasonable. Is there going to be any kind of public process about location? Or is that going to be a small team?
We can certainly, right now we were looking at the original 2 sites that were recommended back in 2012. The other site is on the Copper River, Kathy can tell you.
Yeah, right at the corner of the Copper River Highway and Lefevre.
Yeah, on the mountain side.
Next to Eagle.
Yep, next to Eagle. Those were the 2 sites that were selected initially, but I could certainly send the original plans just to give some foundational input. And I know that there were council members that I've heard from who were involved in the planning of that facility some 10 years ago. And I know there was a big community effort. Obviously, there's an opportunity for community to re-engage and certainly council to discuss that. But right now, what we have looked at is a needs assessment. What are the needs? How big does the building need to be? What things should be in it? And then we'll identify sites that might be appropriate. If there are any, I think we're somewhat limited in geographic locations that don't require drives up steep mountain cliffs and things. But we'll do a presentation as soon as the report comes back from Burkhart Croft. But I will send that document out.
Sounds great. And I guess I'll just kind of add in that I kind of like that. Just at the beginning of the highway there. I think that's a good location as far as flat land and accessibility to homes in Cordova. So I think that does have good access. So, yeah, any of those just to do the process, but I don't know that I've seen that. So it's nice just to kind of look at it, knowing that it probably will change. But thanks.
Happy to send it out. Thank you.
Any other questions for the manager online?
Yeah, it was Councilman Baylor.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I believe we purchased the property just next to Eagle Contracting. The Dundas owned it at the time, and I think that was the resolution to purchase that property back and designate that for the fire department or public safety building. The existing plan that was developed, I was around when that was done. However, the fire department developed the plan for the building itself, and putting it mildly, it's a bit over the top. And when I started asking questions about some of the things that were in there, then one of the answers I got is, well, you never know, Cordova might have a paid fire department someday. And I'm like, yeah, that's not going to happen. So I hope whoever's involved with this planning, I hope it gets shared with council, and I hope they kind of keep to the basics of what they need, and not extra locker rooms and showers and 15 commodes and so on and so forth. So I look forward to that planning process, and I hope we get involved with that and see what's going on. Thanks.
Any other questions? Hearing none, we'll move on to the clerk's report.
I also put a written report in, and what I'm basically just trying to advertise for people is about this upcoming June 11th primary. I tried to direct people to the website, but now our ballots have come. A lot of people have received their ballots in the mail, and so people have been coming in to ask questions, which is fine. Come see the clerk's office if you want. There's phone numbers to call. There's websites to go to. I've witnessed for a few people, even though it does not need to be an authorized official who witnesses it, but if they want me to, Tina and I are witnessing people's signatures. And then on May 27th is when Ruth Steele will be upstairs. So as much as it is a by-mail election, there is also absentee in person. And all those dates and stuff are in my report here, and they're on the state's Division of Elections website, but come in or call me or email me if you have questions. Oh, and there's an assessor RFP on the street, and the deadline is June 1st, so I'll be bringing a recommendation to council probably the second June meeting.
Okay, thank you. Questions for the clerk?
Yeah, quick comment.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Susan, so my son, who hasn't lived in Alaska for 5 years, got a ballot for this special election. I'm just curious on how like that could happen. It's kind of like vote early and vote often. So
You'll have to talk to Division of Elections about that. There's a method that names get purged from the lists. I think this by-mail election is going to work well towards doing it a little more quickly than it had been happening. But a lot of people move out and don't tell Division of Elections, you know? Maybe they tell their landlord or city utilities, but if they don't tell Division of Elections, how are they to know?
I think there's a function too where you can go online and enter your information and correct the
Yes, you can.
record. So
Yes.
you could, yeah, I mean, yeah, but it's the state, it's coming from the state, so.
Okay, any other questions for the clerk? Okay, staff reports are in your packet. Library, Parks and Rec, and Museum. Questions, comments on those? Hearing none, we've got some correspondence. Shore River Festival is this week. Most of the main activities start tomorrow, yeah? Is that true? I saw the calendar out there in the interwebs earlier today. Support and not support for the harbor project. Email from Ken Fay, my letter to the fishing industry. Any comments, questions? Okay, we don't have any ordinance or resolutions, no unfinished business. Now we're getting somewhere, huh? New and miscellaneous business, pending agenda. We have a few items there. Probably need to maybe schedule something, but have staff work on a resolution to the ski hill proposal. Come to us with a
Oh, for the next council meeting?
council.
Yeah, okay.
At some point in time, we need to, probably need to ink these contracts in. If it's gonna get done this summer, it's gotta get inked at some point. So we need to decide how we're gonna pay for that, or if we're gonna pay for that, and where that money's gonna come from, if we're gonna do that. So that needs to get on a agenda shortly. And then we need to figure out a time for a special meeting to get with, I would suggest, have the HSB and invite whoever's here for Alonka.
Yeah. It might wait until next week then. That's kind of
Well,
quick notice to get everybody.
Yeah, I understand that. What date did he said he's going to? They're going May 12th.
Meet with them. So if we
When
met
is
Monday or Tuesday.
May 12th?
I was hoping, I know it'll be a tight time frame, but I was hoping if he gave us some meat for a packet, I could put it out on a Friday, so it's accessible over the weekend.
I don't necessarily think for this we need any meat of a packet. I think that the goal here is to come up with a generic enough letter that doesn't say we support a particular project, but that we support collaboration on healthcare. However that needs to be worded. I think some people were working on that, Kathy.
Well, I'd agree with that, but I would just like all the players in the room.
Right.
That's the most important thing to me. I understand the process, and I know it's big picture, money time, and we'll whittle it down. I know how that works, but I want all the players in the room.
But I don't want to leave the public out, is what I was saying.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
So
It'd
is
be hard
Monday,
for them to
Monday noon?
understand. All right, let's shoot for Monday noon.
What?
On the
Oh,
airplane. I think it would hurt to ask for an executive summary or something of their proposal. I mean, they're putting something together. so-
yeah. We can certainly ask them for something or for some other options for.
Is everyone on the phone? Is Monday at noon workable?
Kathy won't be.
Oh,
I may have an appointment I'll be at.
should we do later?
How about another time?
I fly on the northbound.
And are you going to be in Anchorage to call or no? If we did it later?
Yes, I will be in Anchorage. I could call from the airport.
At what time?
After the jet lands.
5, 6, 4?
No, I fly again at 5. So.
Oh. All right, do we want to shoot for earlier?
3:30. If it flies at 5, because then you'll be boarding by 4.
And what's Jeff has an issue too?
I got a 4 o'clock appointment, I know for sure, I think. Let me check when I get home. I gotta.
Okay, so we're going to invite these other people, but obviously we're not going to maybe get everybody.
Everybody's not going to be able to make it, but as long as they have the opportunity, and I think as long as we focus on a generic letter that supports healthcare and that doesn't support a specific project per se.
9 a.m.?
I'm just wondering, we need 24-hour notice, right?
Yeah.
Right, but that's why I'd want to get it from them and put it out Friday, and then maybe for a Monday meeting.
I guess they're not here
know,
to
I wish-
respond.
I know.
I'm going to suspect that they would be more than willing to hustle and get us something.
They'll do it however quick we want to do it.
Yeah. So if we wanted to even do it
Bert would do it tonight.
Friday.
All right, well,
I'm
I'm worried about the public, but
Jeff?
I don't know that a generic letter that says we support collaboration between the city of Cordova and the native village of EAC is going to fulfill their needs. I think if we could come up with some short, sweet thing that is a memorandum of understanding between the two parties about, basically stating that they're not going to raid hospital services that are creating dollars for the hospital, and that they're not going to do anything that's going to endanger our critical access hospital status. To cover the big concerns we have, if we could get some kind of memorandum of understanding between the two parties, then we could put out a letter that would say, we wholeheartedly support this, and we'll sell our firstborn children to help them get it. And that's the kind of letter they need.
I can honestly say that they're not yet ready to do that because I've been in conversations with them around an MOU. And if you look at the letter that they're recommending on page 31, it is very, very, very generic and purposefully probably vague, but nonetheless represents the kind of letter that they feel they need to support at least this first step. So it talks about the only thing that's specific is appropriations request to replace their healthcare facility. And then everything is about having quality healthcare, NVE's well known and respected, CCMC or city and NVE work together. So if all we're doing is coming up with this kind of language that is generic support, I'm not sure. And this draft letter came from NVE, just so everyone knows. We did not create this. This is their draft letter. So, yeah, I'm not quite sure if the issue is supporting the project in general because we don't know what it is, then we definitely need information from NVE. If we just want to support generically this project and wait and see what comes out, which has its own risks, then you could put forth the letter that's on page 31. But again, a special meeting to make those decisions is certainly warranted, and it's just a matter of when we do it.
Okay, we're going to shoot for Friday at noon? Is that what I'm hearing? Or later in the day, Friday?
Noon or later.
Enough of you okay? Melina, Ann, Ken, Tom, how are you with Friday noon?
I can do Friday at noon.
Okay, that's good
That
enough.
works for me. Also, I believe last time, it was a few years ago now, that NVE was coming back for support. We did do a letter, so I don't know if you could pull that up as well, because I believe that it was pretty generic, but it talked about collaboration, benefits, healthcare, and funding, that kind of thing.
Okay, we'll look for it. Any idea what year? Just kidding. Sorry.
2018?
I'm adding Gleason's comment to the.
Okay, yeah, somebody online had something?
Yeah, this is Councilman Baylor.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Mayor, maybe I'd recommend to you that maybe you should get time to sit down and talk with Dr. Sanders and get input from her if she's got any concerns. And then we could bring those forward to let's talk to somebody that actually knows what's going on in the business here. And then bring that towards council. And I think that would save a lot of time of us discussing what we think. So
Yeah. Yeah, and I think
involved in this.
She'll be at the meeting,
certainly
right?
inviting her to the meeting as well, yeah. And
having that may save some time.
Yeah, I don't think she has had a whole bunch of time with this either. You know, this infrastructure money and all of this money that's supposedly magically out there somewhere, that, you know, these mariculture grants, and everybody's going for, you know, 5, 10, 15, 20 million dollars all of a sudden, and all of the deadlines are now, and they just found out about them recently. So I think she's just recently had a chance to look at this copy and probably really hasn't had a lot of time to dive into it too much yet. But it'll give her a couple more days to look at that and to have her thoughts more lined up. So I don't think it will take us too much time to do. And those of you wordsmiths out there that want to try to come up with some samples before Friday, that would help as well. So
Okay, wordies. One more thing, right?
Yes.
School.
So
that was them presenting
Okay.
us their budget.
Right.
And we kind of have a month to act on it now, or they get what they're asking for. So I'm guessing
And when is their deadline to submit that to the state is
I thought not until the end of June, right?
June?
But I think if they're giving it to us on May 4th, when's our June meeting? Darn. We're going to have to do it next meeting. Right, because our June, what's our first June meeting? Hello, I got a calendar.
Could be June, no.
The 4th, is it the 4th? No.
No.
Oh, the 1st. Oh, yeah. You think that counts if we do it before midnight? Yeah, because they didn't give it to us until the 4th. Okay, so we can wait until the June 1st meeting.
Okay, I don't know how much time we need. We know what they want. We know how much money we've got. We're not gonna find anything new between now and then.
They're supposed to get it to us by May 1st, but he didn't because we pushed this joint work
This
session.
meeting.
That was on
The
us.
meeting.
But 30 days from the day he gave it to us, I guess, and even if it's 30 days from May 1st. June
So
1st.
what's council's pleasure for dealing with the school budget? Next meeting or the June 1st meeting?
I just soon get it out of the way as soon as we can. If there's any chance that we're gonna be pulling stuff out of the permanent fund, with the trajectory of the market these days, we'd rather take that out when it's still worth something. So sooner is better, as far as I'm concerned.
I don't see us getting any new information in that extra 2-week time.
Okay.
If staff is all right with that.
There's no problem.
I'll call him.
No, we just need to talk about their ask and if we're gonna give them more money, where it's coming from. Okay, anything else on the pending agenda?
That's enough.
Mayor, this is Councilmember Schaefer.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'd like to put an item on the agenda for an ordinance to expand the Harbor Commission from 5 to 7 seats. I know that we sometimes have a problem finding enough people to step up and volunteer for the commissions, but with all the work going on in the harbor, or, coming up with the South Harbor rebuild, and then potentially the work on the North Harbor rebuild, it'd be good to get more help for the commission. So this is something we've talked about off and on. For, every few months this comes up. So if we could get an ordinance brought before us, I think that'd be great.
Is there a second to that?
I'll second that.
Okay, we will, I don't know how long it would take to,
I don't think it's going to be too hard, but there's a lot of stuff all of a sudden, so
Yeah.
it might not be next meeting. Because we're also certifying the roll next time, and then we have the mill rate in June, so I don't think it's that hard of an ordinance. I should be able to do it.
all right.
City clerk went to Brown, she can do anything.
The other thing I forgot to mention in my mayor's report, I guess, is that I didn't see on the Shorebird calendar, but they're doing the blessing of the fleet
I saw that
at 10 o'clock down on the Fur
on Saturday.
on Saturday, 10 o'clock. Anybody's interested, I'll be going.
Sorry,
On behalf of the city, but
Channel 13.
they said it takes about an hour. I don't know. Haven't attended one, unfortunately, but anyway, that's gonna be there too. Anything else on the pending agenda, calendar? Hearing none, then we're done. Oh, go ahead.
There you go.
Who's that, Ken?
Just in regards to the Harbor Commission thing. Yeah, you got me?
Yeah, go ahead.
I just, for staff, some information I think would be helpful when that comes up is the makeup of who actually rents stalls in our harbor and, sport, recreation, commercial, that type of thing.
We can get a summary kind of thing from the harbor master. He's looking for something to do. All he's got to do is attend these meetings, so.
Got it, Tony? I'll send you an email.
Okay, anything else? Last chance, last call?
One quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
One thing we might consider with the change to the number of seats on the Harbor Commission is there was the suggestion from the Forest Service to put some ad hoc seats on for other users. in it, so it might be a good idea to put on the Forest Service and the state. You know, so they feel like they've got a voice in this and we don't end up with problems like we had last time.
I would add the Coast Guard to that, maybe.
We can keep adding names forever, but yeah, we'll just make sure that the ordinance has the opportunity for that.
And you can amend it on the floor, because this is pending
Yeah.
agenda and we shouldn't be hashing out the
Yeah.
ordinance while we talk about it.
Yeah.
Okay, I retract my suggestion.
No,
retract
no,
it.
we just need to make sure that the ordinance that we write up includes the ability to have ad hoc members. Okay, audience participation, we're down to 2.
What did he have?
Go ahead, somebody have something online?
Yeah, just, I guess on that note, I would maybe have to bring up if there's any city code regarding government entities sitting on a commission. I don't know of anywhere that's used.
Okay, yeah, well, I'm sure the attorney will review the code and we can ask about that.
Now she will. I was gonna write it if it was a short, quick and easy, but now you guys are making it hard. Okay.
Okay, we're down to 2 in the audience. Tony and the Forest Service.
Nothing.
Done nothing to say, so we don't have an executive session, correct?
Correct.
Okay. One more motion.
Move.
We're not doing
Council comment?
council.
Oh, council comments. I was excited.
I made my comment.
I got excited.
We'll have to be.
Sorry, here, let me grab a list here. Let's go with Councilmember Jones.
Yeah, thanks everybody for showing up. Nice to see everybody attending the meeting. Sorry I can't be there in person. Yeah, I like the idea of a hospital run by the, native tribe. I just, like how we slowed that down a bit to have another meeting. That'll be good. I am gravely concerned with the thought of placating the Forest Service with that letter. I think it's actually pretty audacious of them to suggest remaking an entire commission just because they disagree with one unanimous decision by a public commission. I can't believe they even suggested it. That's kind of unheard of, I think. And they don't even pay harbor fees. So, yeah, that's a little concerning that members of this table find that worthy enough to be on pending agenda for the next meeting. So, anyways, thanks.
Councilmember Meyer.
Yeah, thanks for the meeting, and I'm glad that we're going to have another meeting about the NVE healthcare facility building. Don't know exactly what to call it. I guess new clinic, possibly new hospital, whatever it possibly is. Like Mayor Allison said, all of these funding opportunities are coming in and the deadlines are quickly approaching. So it seems like everybody's coming in asking for letters. So thank you, Mayor Allison, for being available to hear all those and bring them to us. And thanks for all the work people are doing, kind of scrambling to get things out there to get funding. I hope that we can get as much as we possibly can here in Cordova and get those dollars spent here in Cordova and hopefully get some of our infrastructure backed up and good working order and help set us up for the next 20, 30 years. And thanks to all the staff support, and everything else. Thanks.
Okay, Councilmember Schaefer.
Thank you. I really appreciated both the presentations at the beginning of the meeting today. So thanks to NVE and the City Health for presenting. It was also great getting to meet school board earlier. And thanks to all the staff for the reports they put in the packet. You all are keeping busy, so thank you.
Vice Mayor Baylor?
Yes, I'd echo Ann's comments right there, and also say that I fully support NVE moving forward to give a solution for our healthcare issues. Having been on council over the years and watch us budget $1 million a year to keep doors open, I think we've kind of got this false sense of security with the COVID money coming in. That on top of we got a great person running the program finally, but that's not going to last forever. So I definitely support them moving forward. And I think we have in our code that we notify all meetings very well. And if anybody has a concern about any project, whether it's planning, zoning, harbor, council, all they have to do is read about it, attend that meeting. If they've got input they want to put into it, they can speak to the chair or the harbor master or the mayor, and they can get on the agenda and they can have their opportunity to say their say. I think expanding this harbor commission is kind of a knee-jerk reaction and unnecessary. So, thanks for everybody being there.
Thank you. Councilmember Guard.
Thanks staff for all the effort for putting the packet and the meeting together for us. Everybody that presented, I think we had a good productive meeting. It was kind of strange that we're heavy on time on the front end of the agenda and flew right through the last of it, but I think it was a good meeting. And comments or questions about what some of us have fears for with the healthcare stuff moving along was in no way, shape, or form a diss on any of the efforts that the Native Village has been putting forward. They're greatly appreciated. But if we're going to work on something collaborative, having a constant communication avenue going so everybody knows where we're at and what's going on as well as we can makes this a lot easier to do and allays fears. So let's talk more. But anyway, I think it was a good meeting.
Councilmember Carpenter.
Thanks. I echo a lot of the comments that have been made earlier, especially Councilmember Schaefer and Councilmember Guard. And I also just wanted to, I meant to comment on it earlier when we went over the staff reports, but I'm really pleased to see the American Rescue Plan funds being used to look at some of the recreation facilities we have and do some of the work to assess their condition and what might be needed for upgrades. And I also wanted to just mention, in case people don't already know about it and anybody's listening, that Dr. Paul Glow is organizing the Bay to Bay in May on Saturday, which is a bike ride, not a race, but a ride, starting out at Hartney Bay and coming into town and then switching here, I think, in the Cordova Center parking lot. And people can run out to Orca. So Hartney Bay to Orca Bay. As a way to encourage people to get active. And he said it's the last Saturday that fishermen could participate before fishing starts. So that was his reason for choosing that particular day. And yeah, hope people can come out and support, either cheer on runners or go for a bike ride.
Bay to Bay.
Bay to Bay in May. Yep.
Bay to Bay in May.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What was the date?
What time was that?
Saturday. I think it starts at 10.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next Saturday.
This coming one.
Okay.
Already.
So much happening Saturday.
Yeah, it's a busy weekend.
Councilmember Sherman.
I don't have any new or additional comments. I will be out of town back east until the 24th of May. I can call in.
Okay. Now we're to my last motion.
Move to adjourn.
Aaron, second.
Moving to second.
Don't get it first, I'll get it second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we adjourned. Thanks for calling in, those on the line.